Like this show and want to make your own? Let me tell you about Anchor. It's free, and they have creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. And now you can even add any song from Spotify directly to your episodes. The possibilities are endless for what you can create, whether it's music analysis, your own radio show, or something the world's never heard before. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. And you can also make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Hi, and welcome to the Vocal Fries Podcast, the podcast about linguistic discrimination.
I'm Carrie Gillen.
And I'm Megan Figueroa. What are we doing today?
Well, we're answering listener questions.
And we're staring at each other.
That is correct. We are in the same room.
Yes.
Which is weird, because normally we're staring at each other through Skype.
It's true. It's true. Yeah. And it's different etiquette, so I'm looking around way more when I'm on Skype and recording.
It's true.
And there's usually another human person.
Usually, yeah.
So.
Yes.
So I try to be looking at our guest more because, respect and stuff.
It's true. But it's just the two of us.
It's just the two of us, so no respect needed. And we have listener questions that, we might not get to all of them. Probably not. Actually, I'm saying it that we aren't. But we can answer some. And we'll even try to answer ones that are way beyond our abilities.
We'll at least address them even if we can't actually answer them.
Yeah. But I think... Okay. Well, let's just go into one of them. Okay. So how can other common speaking styles, past and present, be described in contrast to the vocal fry many criticize? Often, it seems with a set of features in mind, not just register. For example, I notice on TV from the 70s and 80s, many people talk very differently, sort of a breathier voice. But I haven't been able to find other speaking styles like this described in any detail compared to all that's been written about vocal fry. I think the lack of available info on other speaking styles, which go unnamed, leads to the latter being treated as marked. That was 2 tweets, so that was just so everyone knows.
Yeah, that was a lot. Okay, so yes, there is also breathy voice, and people, I don't know, I really don't know if people used it more back in the day versus now.
No.
Let's pretend that that's true.
Yeah.
But there was no social media at the time.
Ooh, social media, yeah.
There was very little attention paid to language use beyond very prescriptive stuff. Nothing really about tone of voice or anything.
Right.
So breathy voice is another modality or another way of using your vocal cords. Yeah. So there's modal, which is sort of the normal, vocal fry, which is the one that gets shit on the most, breathy voice, whispering, and falsetto.
Yeah.
So people aren't gonna use falsetto all the time.
Oh. But falsetto is like Prince, right? Just so for people that don't really.
Prince, Bee Gees, it's usually used in singing. But you can use it outside of singing.
Does Britney Spears use breathy voice in singing?
Probably.
Yeah, I'm thinking. So breathy voice is used in singing too.
Yeah, I think.
So is vocal fry.
All of the styles.
Is whispering.
Yeah, I think everything is used. All the styles are used for different effects, obviously. But anyway, so yeah, breathy voice. If it were happening now, I think it would get shit on more. I did see someone complain that women were using breathy voice and vocal fry, and I think they were misunderstanding what was going on, because you could technically go back and forth between breathy and vocal fry, but I don't hear that. Yeah,
I'm trying to imagine a scenario in which you would want to do that. And I'm not imagining one.
Right.
I mean, maybe when it's scripted and it's on TV or something, but
I don't think that's what they were talking about. I think they were. I don't remember where I got this from.
Oh, you don't mean the question.
No, I mean a different tweet. Someone was tweeting not at us.
Yeah.
About this, and I was just, I didn't even know how to respond. How I wanted to respond was, it's very unlikely they were using these two different modalities together, Like, obviously, you'd have to switch back and forth. You couldn't use them at the same time. It's impossible. But then I was like, well, maybe there are some people doing that. But
I mean, I have to switch between vocal fry and whispering if I whisper. I don't switch between vocal fry and modal.
You do a little.
A little.
You just don't notice it because
it's super. I don't mean to. Also known as subconscious or unconscious.
Yeah. So okay, so go back to the question because I think I only partially answered it.
Yeah. No, I'll just do the question part, not their example. How can other common speaking styles, past and present, be described in contrast to the vocal fry many criticize?
Well, I mean,
contrast.
It depends on what you mean. If you just mean like modality, like the way that we use our vocal cords, there's only 5. I just described them.
Yeah. The example does
give breathy voice.
Yeah, so maybe it is modality.
But then that's not that interesting, right? Why is vocal fry picked on? Well, it's because women are using it. But there are like lots of other things that women use that have been picked on in the past. So like uptalk, which is still picked on, less so than vocal fry, but it still is. If we go back like 20 years ago, that was the main thing that women were criticized for.
Right. And that wasn't really like a social media thing because there's no social media.
Right. And the internet existed, but barely, right? I mean, it existed before that, but like not in the same way it does now.
Right.
So I just...
and women, even though we've been set back a few decades, women have more power. I mean, there's, it's a way to take them down a notch from...
Right, and because it's vocal fry is associated with authoritativeness. If women are using it, they're taking on too much authority. So it's that I just think it's a confluence of events. It's not so much vocal fry being actually special in any way, except for the fact that it used to be associated with men.
Right.
So we're being uppity by using it.
Yeah. It'll be something else, and I was going to say like 10 years, but it might even be like 1 year. Like you never know with this stuff.
Well, I mean, and I've talked about this before, I think, although maybe not on this podcast, but the reason why it took off was because there was one study on it in 2011. Ugh. One study. Ugh. Well, 2, but the first one's what really matters.
That, like, one that got into all the Business Insider and Forbes.com and...
Right.
You're not going to get a job.
Well, okay, so actually that's a separate one.
Oh, which one are you talking about?
This one is just, hey, look, out of these 30 women at this one college, most of them have vocal fry. That's all that study said. Yeah. But it got turned into only young women have vocal fry. Right. Which is not what the study said. And that's not what the study had any evidence for. All it had evidence for was that it existed in some young women. Yeah. Well, a majority of young women within this tiny sample. And it turns out that it's true that lots of young women were using it and are using it, but it was never just young women. Right.
And then the one that got picked up by like Forbes and stuff was shittily done. I don't even want to use the word experiment, but they have their supplemental audio files, and I listen to them, and there's supposed to be files where they're not using vocal fry, and I'm like, this is fucking vocal fry.
Right. Because almost everyone uses it in English anyway.
Yeah. So it was not a good experiment. None of them were linguists. They were all like, they were business people and like one biologist or something. So.
Yeah. If you're gonna do a linguistic study, goddamn ask at least one fucking linguist to be on your study. Yeah. So they can say,
I know. Just a vocal fry back at you. Be like, what?
But the reason why that study was done was because of this original study. And that's when it blew up in the media. They said, hey, look, we did this study. It's going to be published in like 5 months. Yeah. Here's our results. And it just blew up. But I just don't think that it would have blown up pre-social media. Right. So anyway, that's a very long-winded answer
to say that vocal fry isn't special
no. Yeah. So there's no really compare and contrast in that sense. Yeah. Okay, next question.
Cool. Okay. So what about those shady private accent reduction programs advertised online that claim to eliminate accents in a matter of days/weeks? Well, shady's right.
Yeah. A, shady. Shady AF.
Yeah.
B, there's no way you could change your accent that fast ever. And C, you're not reducing your accent, you're just adding a new one.
Yeah, you're like accent switching, code switching.
Right.
Just, just like how we register switch or whatever.
You're just adding something to your repertoire, which in and of itself is fine.
Yeah.
I really don't think there's anything wrong with wanting to gain a new accent.
Right.
It can confer benefits to you, but just know that you're not doing anything to reduce anything.
Yeah. And I mean, actors do it all the time.
Of course.
They do it poorly all the time. Some do it
better than
goodly.
others.
Yeah.
Well, and British actors tended to be better at it than American and Canadian as well because because they have to be. Because if you're doing if you're in a show in the UK, you could be doing someone from a different region, different class.
I see.
And you have to have a huge repertoire of accents. Whereas in the United States and Canada as well, there's fewer to play with. So
I mean, I knew Hugh Laurie was like British from his name, just felt really British to me.
I mean, yes,
but I didn't know from his. He has a great American accent.
Yes,
but maybe it's because of was it from like Fry and Laurie? Maybe that's why I know. I was like, are you that Laurie?
Yeah, that he's that Laurie.
It must have been that. But I just like knew he was British. But I was like, but I don't know you're British because that's a great American accent.
No, he did a very good job. Yeah, I actually knew him also from P.G. Wodehouse. What's it called? Jeeves and Wooster.
Yes,
that was my favorite.
I love him.
He's so good. He's so good as the dumb aristocrat.
Yes.
Plus, it has great jazz music from the 20s.
Does he play it on the piano?
No, I just mean the theme.
Oh, okay.
He does play on the piano.
I don't know. I just really wanted our listeners to know that he also plays the piano. So Hugh Laurie's great.
He's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, so, yeah. Yeah, so they're shady. It makes me angry when people tell you to, like, get rid of the accent. Or because I, as an undergrad, worked at the journalism school around a lot of people that wanted to be on TV. And there was a lot of shitting on your humanity, honestly. Your hair's not gonna do well like that. And also, like, here's how we want you to change the way you speak kind of thing. Yeah. So that happens a lot in news.
Oh, yeah. So I think the media, like the TV media, might be one of the most conservative places you could work in. And yeah, the things they expect you to do to change about yourself can be quite shocking for outsiders. Yeah. And the makeup women are expected to wear.
I know. No, it's not a great. It doesn't. It can't feel good for people to tell you how to change the way you speak. I mean,
we talked to Beth Troutman about that.
Yeah, that's true.
She was told to talk in a different way, and she just couldn't do it. She was like, "No, this is my accent. This is how I want to talk." So yeah. It did limit her, I think, in some ways, but...
Yeah, and, I mean, and she's white, so, again, it's going to limit people. Yeah. Other people more.
Yeah, she's white and blonde and pretty.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is already, like...
I think she even acknowledged that.
Of course she did.
Yeah, so, I don't remember. God, that was like that episode 3. But yeah, so...
No, she totally did.
Yeah. I've never been told to change my accent, obviously, because mine is very... if it's called anything, it's called Californian, but like what you might hear on the news. But of course, I've been told to get rid of my vocal fry. Yeah. So it hurt me when I was a youngin', so like undergrad. But now I'm like, are you serious?
Fuck off.
Yeah, fuck off. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the only thing I guess there were 2 things. Like up talk, I was told to stop doing at some point. I think I was a teenager at the time. And I did. I mean, I still can use it if I want to, but I don't use it. It's just not part of my normal speech pattern anymore, except there. But I used it a lot more. And then, like, also my parents were like, you shouldn't use like so much. So I tried to get rid of it. And then at some point I brought it back into my repertoire because I was like, it's
such a good word.
It's useful. Oh, I don't use it as much as I did. Like when I was 11, my parents were like, use like a lot. Yeah. I don't use it as much as I did then.
Like is like,
but
all those shitty tools or whatever. That's like 12-in-1 tool. You know, I'm like,
it's a Swiss Army knife.
It is, but the thing is, I feel like some of the tools are better. like on the Swiss Army knife than the others. Like is good in all of its situations. Like it is equally good of a tool in all 12 situations or whatever.
You know more about Swiss Army knives than I do.
I got one of those little
Mini
the little ones, and it has the most terrible toothpick. And I'm like, that's a bad toothpick.
I wouldn't really want to use a metal toothpick anyway.
It's not metal, it's plastic.
Ah!
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So there you go.
Okay, like is better than a plastic toothpick. Yes.
Exactly. I mean, there's a lot of just implicit stuff that makes people want to change their accents too. So that's, I mean, it's not just like people advertising to you. They're really like, when people advertise that stuff, they're really like hitting something really deep in some people.
Yeah.
And
they're playing on insecurity, just like diet plans hit on people's insecurities. It's like,
yeah. And I know that I mean, I did it somewhere along the way, without even noticing, but like I grew up with the double negative and like all of these things that I got rid of on purpose.
Most people do, frankly. Yeah. Like, okay, so I grew up in a pretty, middle class white family, and even though my mom had to tell me not to do it, right? I think double negatives are just actually, or multiple negatives really, are actually just part of English, and like you have to beat it out of children.
Yeah. I'm thinking. Not about... I'm like, oh, I study children. Where does the thing go? Yeah.
They might be a little too young for double negatives at that age. I don't know.
No, they have a lot of cute negatives. Yeah, they probably have to grow out of it. I'm thinking of it. I study younger kids. Like the negatives and stuff are coming in like a little bit older.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're a little young for it.
Yeah.
All right, next question.
Okay, here we go. Being that elements of the far right are centering many of their attacks on academia's role in inclusive language movements, what do you envision as the most effective way to combat their virulent?
Damn
it. As the most effective way to combat their
virulent.
Actually, just leave it in there because I'm not going to get it right. Way to combat their virulent disinformation campaigns.
That's an excellent question, but I don't know how to answer it.
I would love to know the answer to it. Well, they do ask what you envision.
Okay, but like, I don't know how to fight the alt-right. I mean, I might as well just say it. My brother, I consider him to be a member of it, and I couldn't convince him otherwise.
Yeah, this is the only time I'm glad I'm the only child.
There are definitely advantages to having siblings, and there are also advantages to not.
Yeah.
My sister is not.
Right. Yeah, no, is there any getting through to them?
I mean, yes, there has to be, right? There's always a way, because people change their minds. I'm at a loss when it comes to this. I know I'm not good at it, because I just get angry that people see things so, like, to me, evilly.
Yeah, I don't think my mental health is good enough to go up against them, because I'm like, we're so different. If you believe that someone's humanity is less because they're not white or because they're poor, it's like,
or a woman,
yeah, of course.
Frankly, this whole new version of this horrible racism kind of all funnels through sexism first.
Hating women.
So I there's got to be an answer, but I just don't know.
I've been reading so many books and articles on women's anger. A lot of people seem to think that it's just going to take a lot of people that are all angry at the same thing.
Yeah. No, I mean, absolutely. I mean, this does not mean, how do I say this without, like, sounding like I'm asking for revolution? Well, I mean, like, the storming of the Bastille, that was driven by women's anger.
Yeah, no, exactly.
And, like, yeah, if you get enough people directing their anger all at the same place, as opposed to, well, I mean, that's why their alt-right is winning, or maybe not winning. That's why they're doing so well, because they have found a few targets. Women, Muslims, and Black Lives Matter. They pretend not to hate all Black people, but they do, but, whatever. So they have like these really targeted people, and then it kind of diffuses out into other things as well, like they're transphobic and
of course, yeah,
often homophobic, but not always.
I didn't realize that Islamophobia was a central tenet of the
yes.
whole right. Oh, okay.
Oh yeah. So again, my brother, he's an Islamophobe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it just it's, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what the answer is. I know that people who know a lot more about this shit should be the ones answering this question.
Yeah.
Because there are people who know how to fight this stuff.
I mean, I don't know. What, from a linguistic standpoint, it's just like, don't fucking use slurs against other people.
Yeah, but that's like, they don't give a shit about that.
I know.
Like, at that point, we're definitely only preaching to the choir. Like, we have to convince. You know what we really need to do? I think. Fuck those people. The members of the alt-right. They are reachable by some people, but not by us. Like, they're not going to listen to us. But if we can convince the media to stop talking about them in like sort of kind of good ways, and stop being like, well, the Antifa is just as bad. So we need a way to, like...
You mean there's good people on both sides argument?
Kind of, yeah. Yeah, although the media is not usually as disgusting about it as Trump was. But yeah, so I think what we really need to do is get the media on board with, like, calling it out for what it actually is.
Yeah.
And showing how dangerous it is. And then we might be able to peel away members, or at least stop new members from joining, because they might go, oh, that's toxic.
Yeah. Michelle Wolf at the White House Correspondents' Dinner was right on when she was basically like, to the media, you're happy because you're making money. This is is like perfect for you. Yes. I mean, I have lots to say about that. Yeah. Like, not just Michelle Wolf's take, which is absolutely spot on, but like other shit going on. Yeah. But that will take us too far afield. So yeah. Well, so the answer is use your anger for good. Definitely use your anger for good. But how is the question worded again? So is being that elements of the far right are centering many of their attacks on academia's role in inclusive language movements. What do you envision as the most effective way to combat their virulent disinformation campaign? I mean, Carrie, it's a word that I read, not that I say. Well, you also must never hear it then either. I'm not hanging out with SAT words. GRE words. So academia's role. Yeah, that's the thing. Like the academia's role part is what I'm tripping up on. Like, yes, they're attacking academia because here's the reason why. Kids go to college or university or whatever, and they tend to become more liberal. They're exposed to lots of things that they weren't exposed to before in their maybe white middle-class bubbles or whatever. Right. So, yeah, white people with college degrees lean Democratic. Democrat, whatever, however you say it. So that they know that this is a way... They don't want people to think that college is good. They don't want people to think that getting an education is useful, because then it prevents a few more people from becoming Democrats. Oh yeah, and they're gonna continue to suppress minoritized people's access to education. And then there's that too. Even though minoritized people tend to already be more Democrat, but they just don't want them to gain. On that score, it's more about, hey, I don't want you getting my jobs. Like, we have the good tech jobs. We don't want you to get them too. Yeah. So, anyway, it's a huge fucking question. It is. And also academia has some problems, and that's, another problem too. Right. So that's a whole other issue, which we are going to get to. Yeah, we are. But let me just say, fuck you, Steven Pinker. Right. I think we should talk about him when we get to the relevant question. Let us go to the next, maybe our final question from listeners, and then I'll probably ask you something. Okay. So I wanted to end with this one because it's a good one, and it's directly relevant. Why are some prominent linguists such assholes?
Well, because they're humans, and some humans are assholes.
Some humans are assholes, and the prominent ones tend to be white men. Fuck you, Steven Pinker. Although what does he call himself? A cognitive scientist?
Yeah, I mean, he
doesn't have a linguistics degree, technically. But I'm not trying to be like, oh no, he's not a linguist, so he can't be an asshole. No, he's definitely an asshole linguist.
I mean, he's also a psychologist.
Yeah.
So he's not just a linguist, but
he's just like a crossover hit in assholery. So
yeah, and he's definitely, I mean, I know people are going to argue with us on this, but I think he's a member of the alt-right now.
I was just going to say he is leaning alt-right, or just already there. Maybe he toppled over.
I think he's toppled over at this point, but he's definitely one of the members of the dark web, so intellectual dark web, I should say. Right. Which is one of the most ridiculous things.
Yeah. But up to this point, he's been a very prominent face for linguistics.
Yep.
Like up there with Chomsky.
Yep. Almost as famous as Chomsky.
Yeah.
And actually more famous for what he actually does for a living than Chomsky.
Yeah.
Because Chomsky's more famous for his political stuff.
That's true. Yeah.
And he gets completely misunderstood. Even within the field of linguistics, Chomsky, I mean.
Right.
But that's a whole other issue.
Yeah. I mean, I have to say, since he's, at the U of A puttering around, he's just a really nice man.
Yes.
Yes.
And he's very helpful to students, and he gets a bad rap, I think, for some good reasons.
Yeah. For
there are definitely some things in the past.
Yeah.
There were linguistics wars.
Yeah.
That's a whole shit show.
Those need to die.
But I would say, like, at least when it comes to students, he is, like, really helpful. Mm-hmm. And I've never heard anyone be like, he didn't help me. Like, he responds to emails from random grad students all the time.
Yeah, he does.
So, but that's a whole other issue.
Yeah.
So let's turn back to the assholes.
Yeah.
So Pinker, I mean, I don't know. He's bad.
He's just really bad. And unfortunately, his work, has, been the basis for stuff that I've looked at. And it's so annoying to see his name. And
I know.
Yeah.
But he's not the only one. He's just, the most prominent.
Yeah, again, very prominently out there.
And then there are ones who are, basically, sexism isn't really real. Or
there's a lot of that.
Sexual harassment's not really real.
Oh my god, there's so much of that.
And it's not always, but it's often European white men. Mm-hmm. Some European white women. So it's just
yeah.
It's a shit show. And it's because we're humans,
mm-hmm.
and any community of humans is going to have some bad people in it.
Yeah.
And I just...
and also linguistics is such a big field. I don't know if people realize that. We're interested in so many different things, so it doesn't really connect people the same way some other fields can. Maybe you're studying something that's more narrow that, okay, we have a lot of similar personality types going for this. Like educational psych or something. There are people that are very interested in helping children or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think linguistics has anything like that besides language, which is a huge thing.
That's true. That's
so
true.
huge.
That's true. We're still one of the smaller fields.
Yeah. Oh, in terms of people.
Yeah.
For sure. But not in terms of the things you can study as a linguist. So
there's many subfields, yeah.
Yeah.
And there's lots of internecine fighting between them, which I hate.
Yeah, me too.
I don't give a shit which part of linguistics you want to study. I will still think it's cool.
Yeah. As long as you're tell me about yourself, you're not being an asshole.
Yeah, just if you're an asshole about it, then I guess there are some subfields that I really don't care. If you're really mathematical and it's just about, I start to get bored.
Yeah.
But I don't know, theoretical syntax to me is very fun, as long as it's not too in the weeds of math. Or sociolinguistics, I've never studied it, but I find it really fascinating. And it's there's lots of stuff in between and outside of that, and it's just stop shitting on other subfields.
Yeah.
For the love of God.
Yeah.
This is the worst, one of the worst things about linguists, in my opinion.
Shit on individual people.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and it's also okay to critique. Hey, I just think the subfield...
In a science way.
It's going down a bad path because of this or this or this. There's ways of doing it that are, I think, okay, but it's just the way people talk about these things. It's like it's like they think some subfields are evil.
And they might be associated with specific people, maybe? I don't know.
Yes. There's a lot of anti-Chomsky stuff that's like really weird.
Are assholes confusing it with his like politics and they don't and they're
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Because usually these people actually agree with his politics.
Yeah. People are just getting I know it's not that important to hate people. Like, are you kidding with me?
Well, I mean
the syntax or semantics or the phonology, whatever.
You're not even hating people, you're hating a whole subfield. Whatever it is. And people do and it's across the board. Like there are syntacticians who are like sociolinguistics is stupid. Like it's across the board. I'm not picking on anyone.
Yeah.
It's just
yeah.
Stop it.
Yeah. I was gonna say another. Oh, I mentioned it briefly on Twitter, and I'm not gonna actually say a name because it was in a review and like HIPAA violation or something. But yeah, there was a white male linguist.
Oh, it's not a HIPAA violation, but yes. Okay.
No, I know. I'm joking. I'm not a doctor.
It's an ethical violation.
Not that doctor. Not that kind of doctor. White male linguist who totally shit all over. I mean, by extension, his student for applying for like an ethno-racial diversity scholarship to go to our annual conference. And it was a diatribe. There were footnotes. I was just like...
There was a footnote in a reference letter?
Yes.
How arrogant are you when you're like, I need a footnote?
I know. I'm like, you are the worst person that has ever written a recommendation letter. I know it's not true even because I've seen terrible recommendations. But yes, this is the worst I've ever read.
Yeah, no, that's bad.
Yeah. And I'm like, you don't even mention... No, he did mention the student's name, but like, obviously it wasn't about her at all.
No. And, you know, that person should be red flagged. Like, hey, maybe don't ever read their reference letters.
I tried. I was just a student. Who am I? But, yeah.
I think our field, and probably other fields as well, need to have a better... we need to have a reckoning with bad men.
Yeah, I mean, we tried to with Florian Jaeger.
Yeah, that was so frustrating. So
there's another really prominent asshole.
Right. Again, cog sci side.
Yeah.
Not that means that they're bad all across the board, but this particular one was. Anyway, he basically, like, he sexually harassed many women in that department, both his colleagues and his students. He made really disgusting comments, like something about the taste of one woman's vagina. Yeah. Which I'm like, that should be an immediate fireable offense. Yeah. Immediate. Yeah. And I know I still have Facebook friends in common with him, and I'm like, how? I know. How is this possible? How is this still fucking possible? Oh, yeah. You're friends with this guy who said that about his own student. I know. No, there's definitely loss of respect when I see the mutual friends. Yeah. And it's like, it's another case of people just not wanting to believe women. And it's disgusting because there are lots of women that came out against him. And there are really, really prominent, well-respected, I really respect the professors that actually left Rochester because of him. Yeah. Good for them. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure they have a better job now too, actually. I think they're in a better state. Yeah. I think they're in California. One of them, a couple of them are in California. No, I mean like professors that weren't even involved. Because I know that some people left because they were harassed, but there was a man, Richard Aslan, who just left because he was like, that's really good. Yeah. I mean, you'd hope men would do that in that situation, at least ally with the women, but yeah, no, it's terrible, and I think it speaks to, a problem in our field with, I mean, we tried, like, at the annual conference after that, we're like, let's do, like, a sexual harassment, no tolerance policy statement, let's all think about this. I was so happy that was actually going to happen, and then what happened was this weird panel about harassment and other things.
Yeah.
And it was just, at first I didn't even really realize like how, how I was not even addressing the elephant in the room at all until afterwards. I got back to the hotel room and I was sharing with two other women, and one of the other women was like, well, that didn't even talk about the elephant in the room. And I was like,
yeah,
you're right.
Yeah.
And then suddenly I went from like being like, oh, okay,
to angry,
livid.
Yeah.
And I am still angry that the LSA did that, that they tried to like shove it under the carpet. There's no like, hey, what should we do when someone doesn't even get fired? Like, should the LSA actually do something? Like, at least expel the person or something?
Yeah, Florian Yeager's not expelled from LSA, is he?
Not as far as I know. I mean, I literally do not know if they did anything to him.
Yeah.
The worst thing that they did was this panel that didn't even talk about him or the allegations or anything.
Right. Yeah, no, his name wasn't mentioned. It's like, can't talk about it.
Which, okay, that part I can sort of understand, but at least have like, okay, going forward, this is what we're going to do. If we find out that there are these really serious allegations and there's like some kind of corroboration, which there was in this case. There was lots of corroboration because there were many people.
Yeah.
And also the university admitted that he had said certain things, like her vagina comment. Like, are you fucking kidding me? That's not enough.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry. I am livid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yet he is still standing.
Yeah, he's
one of those people that I've heard other men call one of those how do they call it, a rock star, you know? And I'm like, he's not going down because he's protected by so many things. Tenure, being a white man, people really liking his work, which is like, come on.
Yeah, I have no idea. I can't speak to his work, so I'm not going to talk about that part, but like, yeah,
but it doesn't matter.
Can you imagine like even a white woman doing any of this shit and getting away with it? Let alone anyone else.
Yeah, you're done.
Like, yeah, there is.
And I would want you to be done, right? But I want him to also be done.
Of course. I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
I want to get away with it too. No, that is not what I'm saying.
So yeah, there's lots of assholes.
Yeah. So I could just talk about this forever, but
yeah.
He's not the only one. He's just the most prominent one that people talk about. I know of at least one person who sexually harassed my friends. Well, and then another guy who kind of sexually harassed everyone, including me, sort of, but it was just under the, like, what he said to me was kind of inappropriate, but not to the level of, well, I should report you.
Yeah.
Especially at the time. Maybe if I was a grad student now and he said that to me, I might have said something to other people. I don't know, but... And,
like, if you reported it, what would have really happened?
Nothing.
Yeah, exactly, so...
I would have probably not been able to finish.
Yeah.
Because it's always worse for the student.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah.
Is there, like, a nice light question?
Well, I was gonna... No, there's not any light questions from... Well, I think the why are linguists such assholes really was probably a light question, kind of.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah.
No.
It's true.
That's not a light question.
I mean, okay. Maybe it could have been lighter by how we answered it, but it's like, wait, no, there's actually some real assholes in there, and sorry that it's not funny.
Yeah,
so...
and that person knows that.
Yep. So... what is the thing that you've learned in the 30, I don't know, episodes that we have that sticks with you the most?
It's a good question.
I'm like, God, there's so much that I learned. How am I supposed to pick one thing? I even learned for myself I'm that good.
Well, I mean, sometimes it forces me to organize my thoughts a little bit.
It's true.
Probably the episode about Ghanaian English I knew the least about going in.
Yeah.
And I still really like the chop bar.
I love the chop bar. I love, what was it? A linguist is the person that like...
The spokesperson of the chief.
It's so cool.
It is very cool.
That's true. I had no idea. And I feel like there are a couple of episodes where I had no idea. Yeah,
what about you?
What have I learned the most? The thing that sticks with me, I think the most is, I don't know. You know what? Actually, I think it's the fact that I had no idea that French in Louisiana had the kind of status that Spanish does in the Southwest. Just no concept that, people are struggling for their language, and their language being French. I just never thought of French that way.
Well, even within Canada,
Yeah.
especially pre-70s, before like the Quiet Revolution.
Yeah.
Oh, it had the same status as Spanish does here. Yeah. It was only because there was like this huge political uprising, part of which entailed kind of kicking the Catholic Church to the curb a little bit. Yeah. But like, so basically just like completely like fighting back on all these fronts.
Yeah.
They finally were able to, I mean, English is still dominant.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
But like French is like, has a way better status than it ever did before.
Yeah. And
I mean, it really speaks to how the only way you can get things to change is by fighting.
Yeah.
So that's a lesson for Spanish speakers and heritage Spanish speaker. Yeah, people with heritage Spanish who want to fight.
Yeah. Let's fight all these structural systems while we're at it. While we're at, fighting all the...
I mean, that's the thing. Like, it's like this huge monster, this huge beast. Like, how do you fight all these things?
I know.
And everything is interrelated. Like, yeah. So if we don't fight sexism, racism is definitely going to win, because that's how they get sucked into the racist bullshit, is through sexism. But if we don't fight racism, then white women can't win either, because like there's not enough. But if we all somehow join forces in kumbaya.
Oh, kumbaya.
But we do have to join forces. That's the thing. Like, whether we want to or not.
Right.
And yeah, I don't know. It's a mess.
Yeah. And that's a lesson from French. From Louisiana.
Louisiana and Quebecois French. Yeah.
I have to say, I mean, I don't want to pick, like, favorite guest or anything, but the one that made me cry that no one knows about would be fucking Alberto Rios making me cry with his beautiful poetry.
Nobody knows
about
that?
The border.
Pretty sure you've said that.
I think I said you cry. Here's my deep dark secret. Poetry makes me cry, especially when it's about where I'm from.
Yeah, it's a really good episode.
It is.
But I like Tito is such a sweet man.
Yeah. And it was like quite different from other ones. And of course it was like a lot of fun to be here with Ursula. So our Black Lives Matter episode.
Yes. Yeah, but Ursula's a super fun person to hang out with.
That's the only episode that we've done with our guest and me and you in the same room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Well, that's not true. When we had the Linguists.
Oh, that's right.
We were all in the same hotel room.
That's true. It didn't feel real because it was a hotel room. Yeah. True. Yeah. Well. Yeah.
So, if this is the kind of rambling that you enjoy, you can become a patron.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And if you're at the $5 level, you get to access to our bonus episodes, which are more rambling.
Oh, yeah.
Than our regular ones.
Yeah. Less structure.
Yeah.
What did I say before? More salt? No. I mean, everything's pretty salty.
This one, this episode is very salty.
Oh, so salty. We need to contact our lawyer to see if we can,
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I'm going to think about how much to keep in. I mean, Steven Pinker is just obviously...
Oh, yeah.
And we have the receipts. I mean, you just look on Twitter.
Yeah. And Florian Jaeger, too. It's everywhere.
Oh, that one's, again, receipts. Like... Yeah. I'm not making that shit up. There's a document where that is said.
Oh, and be careful when you read it, because it's horrifying.
It's really horrifying. And you know what? If you're still friends with him, you should feel ashamed.
You should.
At least publicly. Jesus fucking Christ. Like, what kind of message are you sending? If you're a professor anyway, what kind of message are you sending to your grad students, especially your female grad students, when you're still Facebook friends with this person?
Not a great message. I know.
Gross. I mean, it makes me feel sick to my stomach.
Yeah.
And I'm not a female grad student.
No. I was. And it made me feel sick.
Well, I wasn't at the time, but yes, I was.
I was at the time, yeah. Yeah, be better. Just be better, everyone. No, not everyone. Everyone. So many of our listeners are so good.
Yeah.
Who am I talking to? Not you.
Although I guess every single person probably has an area that they can work on.
Yes, of course.
But definitely many of our listeners are better people than I am, so. So be our patron on Patreon if you can. Yeah, if you can. You know, I know we have a lot of grad students and undergrads, and I know it's hard because I was just one of them. Yeah, absolutely. We totally get it. So we forgot a couple of linguists to talk about. Yes. So we decided to come back and record a addendum. Little bit more.
Here's an addendum of assholes.
One of them we really did forget, and the other one actually something new came up. So
yeah.
So you wanted to talk about Nunberg first. He wrote I think it was a language blog about how it's okay for him to use the N-word.
Oh, we may have talked about it when we talked about like swearing, and we were talking about slurs briefly.
Yes, I may not have said his name though.
Oh, okay.
Maybe, I don't remember.
This is a white man, just to make it clear.
Yeah. We would not be talking. Well, I guess anyone non-black is problematic. But if it was a black man, obviously I wouldn't bring it up at all.
Yeah, this wouldn't be a thing.
I don't care.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's definitely an old white man with certain privilege.
Yep.
So that's definitely something we should have talked about when we were asked about assholes.
Yeah, and I think this is a specific, tying it back to linguists specifically, he's specifically an asshole because he thinks as a linguist, I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
Because he thinks he's an expert about language, which he is. Granted that he is. But that means, like, he understands, like, how the N-word is, like, used, and so, I don't know. It's just a weird argument that, he thinks it's above it, because he's never using it. He's not ever directing it at anyone.
Just so intellectually using it.
Yeah, like it's the mentioning rather than using.
Right.
There is a distinction, but still, I think it's somewhat problematic for us to worry about that so much. Like, worry about the distinction. Like, it's still harmful.
It's harmful. For a non-black person to say it. So, it's not, so don't. Man, come on. Yeah, and other linguists don't use that. Don't use being a linguist as an excuse to fucking say that.
Some do, but he's not the only one. It's just that he's probably the most prominent one who has. And then, I mean, so John McWhorter has done and said some problematic things in the past before, anyway, but I kind of forgot about him because, I don't know. He's like one of these people that sometimes I'm like, what are you saying? And sometimes I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
Like when he talks about the spirit of dwarf hypothesis. Yeah, he's right on with that stuff. So, yeah.
Which is what for our listeners? Just briefly.
The idea that language determines your thoughts.
Right.
And what he points out is there definitely some influence of language on like what words you can use, like what concepts you can use. But it's like kind of actually boring. So like the fact that there are 2 words for blue in Russian doesn't really tell us anything special about Russians. Mm-hmm. You know, like, yeah, okay, so they've got like, we have like how many words for different breeds of dogs? Doesn't really tell us anything special about English. So anyway, so I like that stuff. But then you sent me an Eventbrite link.
Yes. The Soho Forum is hosting a debate between John McWhorter and Nikhil Singh in November. The resolution is, quote, "The message of anti-racism has become as harmful a force in American life as racism itself." And who's for the affirmative? John McWhorter. Yeah, I'm not actually all that surprised because he is conservative, mm-hmm. But I'm a little bit surprised because right now, mm-hmm. We don't have time for this shit. Yeah. it's destructive. It's not like a neutral thing to talk about, and it's taking away from other things.
And it never would have been an okay thing to like
Believe,
to believe, like to argue for. But right now, in particular, like dumpster fire, like we're in triage mode. We don't have time for this shit. So anyway,
I mean, I just reading that sentence, I'm like, what?
Yeah, how can you believe that anti-racism is harmful? Like, I know what he's gonna say. He's gonna say, like, it's counterproductive the way that they're talking about anti-racism, or they're just calling everybody racist, and, you know, that just turns people off. I'm sure he's gonna make these kinds of claims, but...
I mean, it's gaslighting. Honestly.
Yeah, it is gaslighting. And also tone policing, because you're like, you're allowed to talk about racism, but only in these ways that I find acceptable.
Yeah. And I'm just convinced that tone policing is like gaslighting. Always. It's like...
Yeah, they're definitely...
Yeah. Most of the time they're hanging out together. So
yeah.
So yeah, that was I don't know, that's disappointing. So thank you to Nikhil Singh, who's gonna go up against that in the negative. So
I guess, but like, why? I don't know. Why bother?
Why agree to do this?
I guess maybe he thinks that you have to, otherwise
this guy just gets to talk. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I mean, someone's going to debate him. Maybe I should be the one who's going to do it because I have the best ideas or something. But I don't know. I worry about even engaging in this kind of argumentation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So fun.
Fun. So that's definitely asshole-ish. Going back to the previous conversation about Florian Jaeger. Someone last year had posted this long post about how someone had told her, "Hey, look, my ex is a terrible, dangerous person,"
mm-hmm.
and she had conversations with him, and she just didn't see that he just didn't seem dangerous to her. So she didn't delete him as a friend. She just didn't take her female friend seriously. And then a few months later, or like a little bit later, another friend talked about how isolating it was to tell her professional and personal communities about the abuse that she'd suffered at the hands of a well-known colleague. And then, you know, a bunch of women started sharing their own stories of similar kinds of behavior. They all said, "Hey, we'll never work with him again," because, so they took a side.
Yeah.
But she hadn't taken a side. And so she was like, "Oh, I see now, but remaining neutral is damaging. It's a betrayal."
Yeah.
And I agree. It's a betrayal.
Me too. Yeah.
So I'm going to try and remember to post this particular post because I think it's important.
Right. Jaeger is a very famous and like a very relevant, I don't know what I'm saying. It's just that it's so obvious that he has damaged people's careers.
So many people's careers.
Yeah.
So many. And it rippled out.
Yeah. And this is something as linguists that some of us aren't addressing, and that you can't be neutral here. He's a negative force in our field.
And worse, we do know some people who've taken his side.
Yeah, and it hurts.
Yeah. It's gross. It's really, really gross.
Yeah, it's really hurtful. Especially since I was a grad student when this all happened, and I saw people taking his side, and I was like, I can't trust them anymore. Okay.
No.
That's hurtful.
That's actually kind of a good thing to know.
It's a good thing to know, for sure.
But it's shitty. It's so fucking shitty that you have to know it.
Yep. So those are our demons in linguistics that we know of. Yeah.
And the ones that we know of and that we have receipts for.
Yeah, receipts. Because we are about to get like a lawsuit of slander up in this biz. So
there's definitely some people that I know some shit about that we're not talking about. And you too, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But the people who have been obviously publicly shitty.
Yeah, there's news articles. There's,
or their own tweets.
or Eventbrite links. So
yeah. And I know that some people, well, I don't know about our listeners, but I do know some people are going to be like, why shouldn't you be allowed to debate whether anti-racism is bad? I guess technically you can do whatever you want, but it's just, we don't have time for this shit.
Yeah, even if he were being devil's advocate, we don't have time for that shit. But he's not. Yeah. He believes this.
Probably. He probably believes it. I'm going to say 90-95% sure he believes it. Okay, on to better things. We've decided that if you use one of our episodes in your class, we would like to send you one of our buttons.
Which are cute and fun.
They're very cute, yeah. So just let us know that you've done it and give us your address or an address.
Yeah. It could be your university address if you don't trust us.
Or you don't trust anybody, it's fine. Or
anyone, yes.
Definitely, yeah. Just give us some kind of address and we'll send you one as a thank you. So, yeah. So that's kind of fun.
Yeah, that was Carrie's idea. I want to give her credit because it's a good idea.
Sure, it was my idea. Every once in a while, I have a good one.
I hope this episode was
cathartic.
Yeah, it was for me. Maybe for some listeners too. I don't know.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah. So.
All right, and still don't be an asshole.
Do not be an asshole.
Bye.
Bye.
The Vocal Fries podcast is produced by Chris Ayers for Halftone Audio. Theme music by Nick Granum. You can find us on Tumblr, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Vocal Fries Pod. You can email us at vocalfriespod@gmail.com.